The wind crawled across the wasteland like something alive, dragging the dust of broken worlds with it. The sky hung low, heavy and bruised, swirling with ash from the burned cities that once dotted the horizon. The planet was quiet now, too quiet. Far beneath the ruined towers of the old human colony, a single man moved through the shadows. His name was Rhett Calder, one of the last scavengers left alive. His breath came slow and measured through the cracked seal of his helmet. He had learned long ago that breathing too loud could get him killed. The aliens had landed 3 months ago, silver ships cutting through the clouds like blades. They called themselves the Valen, tall and sharp like the machines they commanded. They didn't come to invade. They came to cleanse. To them, humanity's ruins were diseased, infested with scavengers like Rhett. The Valen believed in purity, a silent planet, empty of the noise of mankind, and Rhett, the last man hiding in the wreckage of Outpost K9, was their unfinished business. The first hunt began at dusk. The Valen scouts moved with inhuman precision, 5 of them armored in white exosuits that shimmered in the dim light. Each carried plasma spears that could burn through steel. They spoke no words as they advanced through the ruins, their glass helmets reflecting the dying sun. Rhett watched them from the wreck of a transport bus buried in sand. He had set traps days before, buried motion sensors, redirected heat signatures, placed the carcasses of old machines to confuse their scanners. Still, he knew they'd find him eventually. They always did. He clutched the weapon strapped to his arm, a piece of ancient tech he'd pulled from a crashed research pod weeks ago. He didn't know exactly what it was, only that it had reacted to his touch. When he first picked it up, it had fused to his skin, embedding thin metal veins along his arm that pulsed faintly with blue light. It whispered sometimes, not in words but in pulses he could feel under his flesh. The Valen wanted it. He didn't know why, but he could guess. They had slaughtered an entire settlement to recover another one like it. To them, this wasn't just a relic, it was a weapon that shouldn't exist. The first scout found the bus. Rhett heard the faint scrape of metal against sand and held his breath. Through a crack in the wall, he saw the scout's reflection, sleek, silent, moving like water. The alien bent down, scanning the ground. A faint blue light swept across the sand. Rhett didn't move. The alien straightened, taking a step closer, then froze. A second later, a small explosion swallowed it whole. The trap had triggered. The blast threw metal shards into the air, scattering ash and bone fragments. Rhett ducked low, waiting for the ringing in his ears to fade. When he looked up again, the alien's armor was burning, a single hand twitching from the wreck. 4 scouts remained. They came for him after nightfall. The Valen didn't tire, didn't sleep. Their armor glowed faintly in the darkness, moving like ghosts through the skeletal remains of the colony. Rhett crawled through the maintenance tunnels, breathing the stale air that reeked of rust and old smoke. Every few meters, the walls trembled with distant footsteps. He paused at a ladder leading upward. The metal was cold beneath his gloves. As he climbed, he whispered the words his mother used to say before the war, a prayer to no one. When he reached the top, the tunnel opened into an old reactor chamber. The space was enormous. Broken catwalks, shattered glass, and the hum of dying energy fields that still flickered like wounded stars. He moved quietly toward the far exit, but a sudden beam of light cut through the dark. One of them had found him. The alien stood on the opposite platform, its armor gleaming white against the black. It raised its spear, and for a moment Rhett saw his own reflection in the glass of its helmet, thin, filthy, eyes sunken with exhaustion. He dove behind a support column as the plasma bolt tore past him, melting metal where his head had been a second earlier. He fired back with his rifle, but the bullets glanced off the alien's armor like pebbles. Then the weapon on his arm began to pulse, slowly at first, then faster, until light crawled across his veins like fire. He didn't understand what it wanted, but when he raised his arm, a burst of energy erupted outward. The blast struck the alien mid-step, sending it crashing backward into the pit below. The light faded and Rhett collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The air smelled of ozone and burnt metal. 3 scouts left. By dawn, the Valen changed tactics. They split apart, hunting him from 3 directions. Rhett hid inside the ruins of the command tower, once the heart of the human colony. The walls were covered in old slogans. The frontier belongs to mankind. Now the paint peeled, and the words felt like a joke. He found water dripping from a cracked pipe and drank greedily, ignoring the metallic taste. His reflection in the puddle looked less like a man and more like a ghost. The veins of blue light under his skin had spread up his neck, faint but visible. He wasn't sure what the device was doing to him. Sometimes, when he touched the walls, the lights in dead machines flickered to life. Sometimes he heard whispers in his mind, echoes of voices he didn't recognize. The power felt like it was growing, but so was the hunger behind it. He didn't have time to think about it. A shadow moved in the corridor. Rhett turned and saw one of the scouts, its armor glinting with sunlight through a hole in the ceiling. It stepped carefully, scanning the floor. Rhett slid behind a console, holding his breath. The alien paused, then aimed its weapon directly at him. No hesitation, no warning. Rhett reacted without thinking. The device on his arm flared and the world blurred. He felt himself move faster than his own body should allow. The plasma bolt missed, searing the wall behind him. In the same instant, he was standing behind the scout. He didn't remember crossing the distance. His arm struck out instinctively, touching the alien's back. A blinding surge of energy leapt between them. The alien convulsed, its armor crackling with blue fire. For a second, its glass helmet reflected Rhett's face, and then it went still. The light inside its visor went dark. 2 scouts remained. By the second night, Rhett's hands wouldn't stop shaking. He could feel the energy humming under his skin like a living thing. Every time his heart beat, the light pulsed brighter. The air around him felt colder, sharper, as if the planet itself was watching him. He moved toward the outskirts of the colony, where the sand swallowed everything in silence. The alien ships hovered far above, motionless and silver against the stars. They didn't interfere. They were waiting. He realized then that the scouts were never meant to capture him. They were testing him, measuring what he had become. He heard the crunch of metal boots behind him. The last 2 scouts moved together this time, flanking him. Their armor glowed brighter now, the color shifting to crimson, a warning hue. Rhett backed away slowly, his boots sinking into the dust. The weapon on his arm pulsed harder, reacting to their presence. The first scout lunged forward, spear slicing through the air. Rhett dodged and fired his rifle. The bullets sparked off the armor, but he didn't need to hit the alien. He just needed to buy a second. The second scout charged from the side, but Rhett raised his glowing arm, and the ground beneath them cracked open with light. A burst of energy erupted outward, shaking the desert. 1 scout vanished in the flash, armor disintegrating into dust. The other was thrown backward, crashing into a ruined transport shell. It tried to rise, struggling to aim its weapon, but Rhett was already there. He pressed his hand to the alien's chest. The blue light flared again, brighter than before. When it faded, nothing remained but scorched metal and a hollow shell. The silence that followed felt endless. The wind blew softly through the ruins, carrying the faint scent of burning glass. Rhett stood there, trembling, staring at his hands. The veins of light had spread across his entire body now, flickering beneath his skin like circuitry. He knew they were watching from above. The Valen ships hadn't moved, but he could feel their eyes on him, cold and curious. They had sent their best to hunt him, and none had returned. He waited for the next attack, but it never came. Instead, the ships began to rise, drifting silently into the clouds. Within minutes, they were gone, leaving only streaks of silver against the gray sky. Rhett didn't understand why they left. Maybe they feared what he was becoming. Maybe they had seen what he couldn't yet see, the weapon waking inside him. The voice that had been whispering for days grew louder now, clearer, speaking through his thoughts in a language he didn't know but somehow understood. It told him the device wasn't a weapon. It was a seed, and he was the soil. Weeks passed. The dust storms returned, sweeping over the abandoned colony until it disappeared beneath the sand. No one came looking for the missing Valen scouts. No rescue ships descended. The world forgot this place, the way it had forgotten all the others. But sometimes when the wind shifted, lights flickered deep beneath the surface of the wasteland, cold, blue, and alive. Those who wandered too close claimed to see a man walking the dunes at night, his body glowing faintly in the dark, the marks of alien technology running through his veins like rivers of fire. They said he no longer spoke, that his eyes shone with the same light as the ships that once hunted him, and when new scouts were sent years later to investigate the silence, their ships landed, their beacons flashed, and then nothing more was ever heard, because the thing they had made no longer feared them. It was waiting.